don't take racism seriously. Okay, so England, you've mentioned Bulgaria and Hungary, where England went and played against them, monkey chants, that kind of stuff. Now, for me, if they're serious about racism, what they say is, right, for the next 10 games, your fans will not enter the ground. 10 games, not one game, but 10 games. Because if they don't get the message when they're banned from being in the stadium for 10 games, they'll never get the message.
Racial abuse, homophobic abuse is aimed at you, and you've got evidence, you report it, or I asked you to report it. And look, I know it's difficult because some people will want to deal with things in their own way. That's naturally what people want to do. You know, not everyone is going to come running to the police. My advice is to report it to the police. That is my advice. But people will always say, you know what, I'll deal with this my own way.
Affinity Extra. Be extra.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and do not necessarily represent the views of Affinity Extra.
Yeah, guys, this is your boy here, Roger Moore here on Affinity Extra. We're here to be extra, and you know, we're just extra here still anyway. So we got the most extra podcast out there when it comes to football, and we have invited back the police back into the conversation. Yes, you heard it first, guys. Don't run away. We're going to be dealing with some of the issues out there. We had a conversation with PC Stuart Ward about, you know, what is a hate crime and how we need to be dealing with things as black people, as black footballers, as black officials, whichever way we look at it. I've got here today got Anthony, who, you know what I'm saying, obviously we all know about Anthony and his love towards Arsenal, and we got Lance. We all know he's a bit too much into Man United, but anyway.
Says, my love for justice. I hear what you says. My love for Arsenal, but you should also say his love for equality and black people being treated with the respect and manners that they're supposed to get.
Yeah, man.
Talk the thing, bro.
Yeah. All right. Usually, guys, Anti's next to me beating me up anyways, but he's not next to me today.
I can't make it. Luckily for him.
I've got lads who we've had great we played against him.
Lads is a different breed, fam. Different breed, man. My brother.
Listen, definitely a referee, and I really wanted to bring a referee in because sometimes we don't see it from a black referee's perspective. As black players, we fully see our perspective, and we don't like seeing too many black referees. So when I hear their perspective and what they can do as a young black referee to protect yourself, we're going to bring Stu into the conversation. But first and foremost, Stu, last time we spoke, you was in the middle of a case with the Albion, at the Albion, you know what I'm saying?
Sawyers, innit?
Yeah, we Sawyers. Yeah. Can you give us feedback? Because we saw the good, this sounds wrong, you know, the good result. But anyway, we saw the guilty result come out. Just give us an idea.
Saw the good result. You was right the first time, Roger. It was a great result. It was a great result. Justice. Justice for black people being racially abused. Justice. It was the right result. It was a great result. Big up Stu for his part in that.
Amen. Give us an update on what happened.
I don't know. When was it? Was it in the summer? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's in the summer. It
was the summer. So obviously, at that time when I was last on, we were talking obviously about Romain Sawyers, the incident, and because it was an ongoing investigation, I couldn't really talk about it. I remember coming on, and I remember clearly saying to yourself, someone will go to prison for one of these offences very soon. It happened to be this Romain Sawyers case, Simon Silwood, which a lot of work went into it. You know, that doesn't probably get portrayed when it goes out on the documentaries or when it's reported in the news, but I can assure you so much work went into that. And when I was talking to you, and I got a feeling from various people that nothing's really going to happen with this. And it was a case of, well, I've just got to sit tight, get it to court. It got to court. The judge found him guilty. And he got sentenced to 8 weeks. 4 weeks, obviously, in prison, 4 weeks out on licence, which is a standard. I think there's an argument. Some people have said it's too harsh. Some people have said, well, he should have got longer. But for me, I'll always support a judge's sentence. And that, for me, set a marker straight away, 8 weeks, albeit 4 weeks inside, 4 weeks on licence. He appealed it. which I don't know if you're aware of. He appealed his sentence. So actually, after 6 days, he was released on bail, which he's got a right to appeal. That's his right in law. He appealed it. It got passed to the Crown Court, so there was more work involved in it.
Wow.
And it was heard by a Crown Court judge and 2 magistrates. So 3 individuals were on the bench. They heard all the evidence again with a fresh set of eyes and ears, and they found him guilty again, and he got sent straight back to prison to carry on his initial sentence.
Amen.
So, for me, it was a big case. It was the first job I dealt with when I landed in January. I think I had the report on the 28th of January from the player. We worked really closely with the player and the club. Now, obviously, there's some conception that players don't want to talk to the police, or clubs don't want to give police the access to players, but I've got to say, with Romain, he was brilliant. He gave a statement. He talked about how it had impacted on him. In effect, he took a stand for people within the black community to say, this is how it affects me, this is how it affects my family, and he gave that bigger picture. So when he went to court, albeit Romain wasn't called to court because he wasn't needed, we were able to play that evidence in court. We were able to read that statement, and the press reported on it on the day, and the press come up to me after and said, you know what, listening to that statement, it just showed how powerful and how strongly Romain felt about it. And that was portrayed to the judge, who then ultimately come to a decision that Simon Silwood needs to spend time in prison. He showed no remorse. I think to this day he probably still pleads his innocence. But all we do as the police is collate that evidence. We take it to the Crown Prosecution Service, they review it, which is what they did, and they said, you know what, there's enough here to charge him. And then it's down to the court to listen to that evidence, and thankfully the court came to the right decision. Because I think, had he not been found guilty, I'd have still come back on and done this show, but it would have been a different conversation.
Definitely.
It would have been, why are we bothering,
Can I just ask you a question? Where you said that the perpetrator said he's innocent. So what was he saying he was innocent about? What did he think?
So basically, it was after the Man City game. West Brom played Man City. Man City beat West Brom 5-0. Romain Sawyers played in that game. And after the game, there was a Facebook post that was created by an unknown West Brom supporter, basically saying Sawyers, Ballon d'Or. So the Ballon d'Or is the most prestigious.
Yeah, I know what the Ballon d'Or is. So,
I'll just explain it to anyone who's listening. There was a couple of comments underneath. Someone replied sarcastically saying dickhead. Someone replied underneath saying white lives matter. And then Simon Silwood replied baboon d'Or, obviously referring to Romain Sawyers. He should win the Monkey Award. So Romain saw that. He said, you know what, that is racist straight away. I knew it was racist, but I have to obviously, to investigate it, I need to know what he perceives it as. He perceived it as racism. Good. And then it comes under the hate crime element. Good. So as I said to you before, we always have to have a criminal offence.
Yeah.
So whether it's an assault, a robbery, a murder, but in this case it was a social media post, so it's a malicious communications because someone's posted something on social media. The fact that he's then used the word baboon and Romain perceived it to be racism then makes it a hate crime, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we had to do a lot of work around that. We got the offender Simon Silwood in for interview. He was arrested that very same day. He denied it in interview. He basically said he meant to type buffoon and it had auto-corrected to baboon. So we had to do a lot of work around that. He changed his story no end of times, and it got to the point at court that I didn't even know what his defence was, if I'm being brutally honest.
Wow.
And then obviously the judge heard that. The judge heard that he typed the word baboon, and ultimately it come down to whether the judge believed it was an autocorrect or not. That's what it came down to, because he admitted to sending the post, but his defence was he meant to type the word buffoon. And I think if you put it in your phone, it doesn't do that. Some phones it may do it. a lot of occasions it does it, and the judge took that into account. She said, you know what, I appreciate the buffoon could change to baboon because autocorrect is a grey area. It can you know, it's autocorrect is computerised, so it can change to anything it wants. But she said on this occasion, I don't believe you. You're not a credible witness. I find you guilty.
That's deep.
And obviously, they got sent down for 8 weeks.
I just put I just put baboon in mine, and the autocorrecting was baboons with an S.
Yeah.
That's what came up.
If you put buffoon in, if you put buffoon in, it won't autocorrect to baboon.
It won't cross over. It'll only cross over if
it just comes up to. It came up with baffin.
Bacon.
We won't do that because what people don't realise.
We had to evidence that. We had to go through a set screenshots and kind of do it step by step in real simple terms for the judge to say these are the possible outcomes. You know,
I understand.
You have to really make it easy for the court, to understand. So, but we got to the right result in the end. And Romain came out after, you know, he was thankful for the work that went into it. I think he wanted to then obviously draw a line underneath it and move on with his football, which I understand. And as I say, that sets a marker now, because whenever I'm going out and dealing with people now, whether it's racism or any other discrimination offence, they're asking me straight away, am I going to go to prison for this? So it's in the back now.
It's good.
The fear's there now, so they know. And that's what
the consequences. They know the consequences.
That's
and
what
whether it's a black person or someone else, they're saying to me straight away, I'm not going to go to prison for this. So I'm hoping, you know, I'm not naive, but I'm hoping for some people that will act as a deterrent. It won't for everyone.
It won't for everyone. I mean, we're not supposed to kill people, but people still kill people, bro. And you get life and all the rest of it. So I hear where you're coming from, but as I said, as a black person who has been on the receiving end of a hate crime, it's so refreshing to know, one, there's a police officer ready to go to the end to pursue for justice. That's one, first and foremost. And two, that the judge had a pair and did the right thing, bro. As you said,
two judges, because it was heard by an initial judge.
That's right.
And then it was heard by an appeal judge.
I'm just proud that those two judges, you know, had enough about them to do the right thing. You know what I mean?
And I think, you know, if that evidence, and as I say, I'm not trying to big myself up, but a lot of work went into that to get the evidence. It might, to you guys, it might just seem a simple thing. Can we not just show the screenshot in court? You know, we have to do a lot of work in the background around intent. That the Simon Silwood came up with a defence. We have to try and disprove that defence. It goes to court. We have to prove beyond reasonable doubt.
That's right.
You know, so a lot of work went into it, and you know, we got the right decision at the end.
That's brilliant. I think as well, what people don't realise is that, you know, even if baboon comes up on your phone, my question will be to you: is that a word that you use often? Why do you use the word baboon often? Have you got a pet baboon at home? You know what I'm saying? Or is your cousin called baboon? Or do you call people baboon?
And even then, don't get me wrong, we've all got smartphones. We all type something, we send a word, and it goes through, autocorrects. And you think, oh, you know what, that's not right. And then you send another message with a little asterisk after it, correcting it. You know, there's a lot of, you know, even if it did autocorrect, you've still
got a chance to change to edit it.
You've still got to press send.
That's what
manual thing.
I was going to say, did Mr. Silverwood, once realising that it says baboon and not buffoon, did he underneath say, sorry, didn't mean for that?
No,
this is what I meant.
No.
There you go then. You know what I mean? Because like he says, we've all done it. Might send something, and you know, it comes up something, and then you know you have to say, Rog, technology typing error, blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
WhatsApp group flex.
Or if it's social media, you'll delete that post and retype it. And you know, judges are clever people. As long as we can present that evidence to them, they will see, you know, and come to the right decision is what they did.
That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. That is really great. And the thing is, now the joke was, now when we spoke to you last time as well, it was just before, it was in the beginning of the Euros. Yeah, just before the Euros. Yeah. And I remember texting you after the Euros, going, obviously, we all know when he all
on the Monday, you text me, didn't you?
Yeah.
You text me on the Monday after the Sunday.
The Monday after the I remember the conversation me and Roger had on that same Monday.
Yo,
Chelsea drowning.
Listen, mate, if you was getting paid per ticket, mate, yeah, you would have got a lot of tickets. You'd have been going on holiday for a long time, mate, for the amount of things that came through. But bear in mind that what happened after the Euros as well, and the racial abuse. Did you get a lot of things on your table directly, or did you have to deal with a lot of almost questions about the whole issue, or did you have a lot of because there was a lot of abuse going on that day, and almost abuse that spilled out off the football pitch and in the homes. Now, a question to yourself: if I faced abuse based from a footballer's lack, or not even lack, just basically people picking on the footballer, they missed the penalty, and I get abused the next day because of that, can we still go to you as a hate crime officer because I faced hate crime because of an indirect result of football?
Yeah,
you saying because a lot of people face something, but we never. Where do you go to?
Yeah. So I mean, that game in particular, I worked that game. And obviously I saw bits of it as I was working, and I knew straight away, as soon as those three lads missed those penalties, I knew exactly what was going to come. I knew exactly.
I think every black person knew what was going to come with
certain people looked at me and they were like, what are you going on about? I said, and within an hour, it started flooding.
Yeah.
The monkey emojis, the N-word, the bananas, the gorilla, all that. And, and we were just inundated straight away. And a lot of people were reporting it to the police instantly. They were saying, I've just seen this on social media. It's been directed at Sterling, it's been directed at Rashford, Saka. Every black player playing for England had received some form of abuse. And it was just getting thrown at us. So what we had to do was, because obviously social media, it's seeing. So Roger, you put a post on your Twitter.
Yeah.
I might see it, but someone in Newcastle might see it. Someone down in London might see it. So what we were getting is we were getting multiple reports of the same social media post. So we had to try and coordinate it, and basically we coordinated it by centralising it into the UK Football Policing Unit, and they had officers that would look at each social media post. They would get the information back from Instagram or Twitter. That would then tell us where the offender lived, and then they would send all the evidence round to the relevant police force around the country. So a lot of those investigations are still ongoing because it was nationally, those incidents were happening. So I've had some in the West Midlands. They're ongoing at the minute, so I can't really go into too much detail, but they're ongoing investigations. But what I would say, in terms of the example that you give, if you're like subject of racism because of those England players missing the penalty, report it. I can't stress enough that needs to be reported, whether that's you or someone else. I mean, that particular example, that wouldn't come into me because I deal solely
with sports,
footballers, supporters abusing footballers or supporters abusing supporters inside a football ground.
Okay,
but they would still get investigated, and then, they have to be reported.
Brilliant. No, that's absolutely great, bro. I think that I can imagine it must have been 24-hour shifts that absolute week, actually dealing with all the responses and how to deal with it, because some of the things was absolutely vulgar. And I think we even had conversations and the thing is, people don't realize is that the environment was almost set up from when everybody was booing the knee, from before the Euros. You know what I'm saying?
It stemmed from it. And you look at England games since, I think we had Bulgaria and Hungary maybe.
Yeah.
They've been booing the knee.
Yeah.
One of the England games away, they've been doing, monkey chanting.
Yeah.
But the ones that were in England from the Euros, some are ongoing investigations, some have been sent to prison.
Wow.
Okay. So I think one
that's the thing.
They've got 10 weeks.
We don't hear them. We don't, apart from because you've come on and showed us that. This is the problem, I think, what affects the black people, the black community, because people are sent to jail, but we're not hearing about it. But when a black man gets sent to jail for the most minute crimes, it's all over the place.
Their mugshot is out there, bro.
Because Roger Moore was jailed today for racially abusing. They'll tell you, even if it was 2 days, but they're going to tell you. But we don't hear when it's other people racially abusing the black people.
Well,
we don't hear it.
With my jobs now, obviously, I know you mentioned the documentary with Sky Sports earlier, and like a lot of my jobs now, it'll be reported by Sky Sports.
Okay, good. And that's great.
My biggest stuff I deal with is racism, and it tends to be black male is the victim, and white male is the offender. That's what I'm seeing. There are occasions where it's black male on black male as well, but predominantly it tends to be white male on black male. And
sorry, Stu, when you say black man, did you say racially?
Yeah.
We're done, and they report it. That's the part that's killing it, bro. So right there, so we're having one of those days. Rog, my nigga, and then Roger's done. Hold on, Stu. Wow. See, we don't know this. See, bro, if you didn't tell me this, I'd say, Rog, you can't. Stuart didn't tell you that. It's only because I'm watching you tell me yourself. I'd have said,
there's not that many occasions of that, but that I have had reports.
Yes, happened. Yeah. Wow, that's mad.
Wow.
No way.
Wow, you see that, Anton Ferdinand? Black man are taking black man to court. You had the chance to take John Terry to court in your mouth. I'm just letting you know, bro. Just saying.
That's so bad.
You know how I stand, Roger. You know how I stand, okay?
Listen, Lance, I know you've been quiet there still, Lance. Yeah, I don't know if you want to interject and hit some hit a response to
what
you're hearing,
Lance, man. Yeah, I know you got that. I know it's in you. I can tell. I know you got that mandingo in you, bro. Don't report me, though. I didn't mean it because
he's got evidence, bro. He's recorded.
It's live, bro. It's live. I mean, what can I say? I didn't mistype, though. What I said, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean mandingo. I just meant strong warrior.
Real.
Yeah, man, Lance, what you saying, bro?
Okay. What angle do you want me to come in?
You just want to go in, bro. Whichever, man.
Talk from your heart. Talk from your heart.
Okay, so I think there's definitely a couple of issues as to why I'm a 55-year-old man. I was brought up in a white working class area in West Bromwich, and I grew up with being called every racial name under the sun. Okay, and when I used to report it to the teachers and say so and so's calling me this, that, and the other, they'd just back me away because, again, there was no teachers of any ethnic minority in my school. It was all white, middle class teachers, so on and so forth. So I understand what it's like to grow up as a victim of racial abuse. So hearing Stu talk about the case and the denial of this individual that he actually said what he said reminds me of my childhood when I would bring the teacher to the child who said such and such, and the child would deny it and say, I never said that. I said this. So it just takes me back to the fact that in all the years that my parents have been in, they come over in the mid-50s, we're still dealing with the same racial problems in our culture that were there when they arrived.
Amen.
Just on the back of that, Lance, just on the back of that. So when the Silwood case in particular, it went out in the media, it went out on social media, it was reported, Sky Sports reported it. some of the comments that you read underneath from people, and I do take interest in what people are saying.
Yeah.
You know, oh, it's only words, sticks and stones.
Bro. Oh, goodness sake.
That's what people say. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, this is the problem.
Yeah.
You know, and that's ingrained in people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that has been the problem since, like I said, the Windrush generation landed in the country, basically. It's been the problem since then. And we're still dealing with some of the issues that we thought we'd made progress on. We're still talking about the same issues now in 21st century Great Britain. And my experience as a referee, I believe I experienced indirect racism because, and I've been on and talked about this to Roger before, and Anthony knows as well, when I should have got my promotion to be on the FA Prem and Football League proper, I didn't get that promotion, and yet my white counterparts who didn't finish higher than myself got promoted, and some of them are still today on the Premier League. So you're talking like Sian Massey, her dad is connected to the FA, so she swam through. No disrespect to Shana because she's a brilliant official, but she got through based on who she knew, and then there was another guy I was on with, and I see him on the Premier League most weeks, to be honest. He finished 15th, 16th. She was around there. I finished 4th in the entire country and didn't even get a sniff. So I know that there's still a cultural issue around black officials. You know, I've mentioned in the previous time I was on, when I went to Daventry for the big refs conference, where you're expected to go, you're expected to turn up. So I was there and I walked in, and the first thing that hit me when I walked in that room was, where are the black people? Because it was me and another brother, and that was about it really in the entire room of delegates. So it told me that some of the issues that are in football, that are on the terraces. Hey, I remember growing up in the 70s and watching the coverage of the football hooligan fighting on the football pitch. And you didn't see many black people going to football matches in the 70s out of fear of racism on the National Front. And I remember in the mid-70s going to West Bromwich Albion. It was the first professional game I'd ever been to. And I was absolutely petrified, because I'd been told about the racism that's on the terraces, and you could get your head kicked in and all that kind of stuff. I'd got my big sister with me. We went together. She wasn't afraid, but I was afraid. And we come out of that experience unscathed. But even then, there wasn't a lot of black people who would attend football matches because of the racism. You know, when I went to my last Old Trafford game, which was a few weeks ago, where I was sat, there was a lot of Asian brothers and black brothers in the crowd in the Stretford end. And I thought, this is progress to when I last came, where you've got people of colour buying season tickets and going to football matches. But I believe you're always going to have that element in a football ground that still carry those racial undertones. And
Standard.
And what you've got as well is, and I think, and I've spoken about this before, I think the social networking giants, they could be doing a lot more to deal with this issue. I'll give you a classic example. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, they got rid of Trump in a heartbeat. Look how quickly they get rid of anybody off Twitter or Facebook who doesn't fit their narrative. So why, for me, are they not doing more about people who are they know these people are, because they have to put details into the system in order to use the system. So why, for me, are the social working giants not doing more to deal with these racial people who use racial slurs, hide behind a computer screen? Yeah, we do know there are people who set up false accounts and all the rest of it. But like the guy, going back to the guy who wrote baboon and tried to say I meant buffoon, before I pressed that button on any social media that I do.
Read what you've written.
Read through what I've put to make sure that I can't be misquoted. So, you know, like I said, for me, that my experience is, and in 28 years of being a referee, not once have I ever been racially abused or have I felt racial abuse coming from the crowd, which is directed at me. There was one game that I did, and the one of the stewards came in at halftime and said to me, "Ref, really apologise about what that man shouted. We've ejected him from the ground and we told him he's banned for life." To which I responded, "I haven't got a clue what you're talking about." He says, "Well, put it this way, we heard it and we don't put up with racism of any kind in our football ground." Because when I'm reffing, I'm that focused on what's going on around me. I ain't got time to think about who shouts from the crowd. However, they noticed it, they dealt with it, and that's the only time it was brought to my attention that there was a racial slur against me while I was officiating a football match. And so I can let other people talk, and I mentioned this before as well, Uriah Rennie was an opportunity to increase black officials to inspire to come through and become referees and become assistant referees. But it just seems like the FA is still run by an old boys club. I said it before I left. I maintain what I said then, that it is run by an old boys club. And it's a case of, if you know the right people at the right time, or if your dad was an official and he's still in with the FA crowd and you come through to become a referee, your chances of becoming a referee or an assistant referee on the Football League or FA Prem proper is greater than me, who used to just do it for the love of the game and have got no chain that I can look to say, give me a leg up to get to where I want to be. And I just think the FA missed a huge trick with Uriah Rennie, because, like, you think about it now, they use Dermot Gallagher, I know Dermot Gallagher, lovely guy and all the rest of it. They use Dermot Gallagher on Sky. They use Peter Walton on BT Sport. When you look at the articles in the newspapers where referees will comment, they don't ever use Uriah Rennie.
Bro, stop you right there. I'll be honest with you. This is my thing, and it's a great point what he says, Lance. Enough respect, but like he says, the FA is an old brethren's club. 75s, 80s upwards, all mate. You know, from that era where they feel white people are more superior than us black folk. Let's be real and talk the thing. Because if you see, look at it like this, it's not just, as you said, officials, but it's like managers. They don't want to give black folk those jobs where it's like prestige positions, because a referee, you're in charge of the game, you're in charge. Black people, for whatever reason, black people can't deal with that. They can't deal with that. You know what I mean? And then, as he says, because we're of the type with Uriah, you know, like Stuart will say, once a crime's committed, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, green with yellow spots, blue and pink, you've committed a crime, you're getting nicked. That's what a police officer will say, correct? So, at the end of the same thing, so when we're looking at the football, FA, and, you know, we are just not getting the opportunities. And we know why we're not getting the opportunities, as he says. Now, really a great point, as he says, because since Uriah Rennie, bro, I can't really recall seeing a black official. But look what they're pushing. Instead of encouraging black folk, they're getting women refs. They're pushing women refs. Again, I won't say it's a what, because black sisters ain't really into football like to be refereeing. So I'm not complaining from that point, but what I'm saying is this, that they've disencouraged black males like Lance, like Uriah Rennie and the rest. They've discouraged us so much that we're not applying, so they've had to go and start dealing with female referees and referee assistants. Why couldn't Lance Blackwood be given his rightful thing? Fourth best in the country, and you can't even get an interview.
That's how it was.
And bro, and that's like when we go back to your club. This is what I bring when I talk about racism. When Ole Solskjaer got the job, yet Dwight York didn't even get an interview. Played for the same club, legend at the same club.
Yeah,
more than a legend. Yeah,
legend at the same club. Because let's be real, Solskjaer's legend status is all based around 1999, the treble. Dwight York played a massive part in the treble. Forget the European Cup, he helped about winning the league. He helped about winning the FA Cup and bringing Man United to the Champions League final.
Yeah, man.
The two black geezers up top, more than anybody, mate.
Yeah, Cole and Yorkie, man.
More than anybody. So, like I said, so when Dwight's now is coming to say, well, I want to manage the club, man's not even saying, I'll give you an interview. Andy Cole's thinking, sorry, I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
But Solskjaer, we get to, this is what I'm saying, going back, you know, we got to be real. So when we go back to society and we see all these things being done, and there was something what came out last year that, what did he say? England does not have a, what was it? A
racist problem.
Systematic racist problem.
Yeah. And the evidence.
And how do you get to those things when we can get people like Lance Blackwood who can come out and say, I'm the fourth best referee in this country and I couldn't get an interview, but Mary, who's dad, and she finished 16th, 17th, 18th down the line, she gets a contract.
Yeah, man.
She gets a contract. And I think I brought this on, different thing, but I think I brought this up before with my daughter and schooling. My daughter tried to go to school 11 plus. She went to go to Sutton Girls School, I'll call it out there. She got 96%. The Caucasian girl got 94%, but she was let into the school because her sister is in the older year. But my daughter got 96% and you got 94%. So if there's a place, you're supposed to go to the person with the 96%.
Yeah, for real.
But my skin tone didn't matter. I appealed it. And then that's what they gave us. Sorry, Mr. Young, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Young, and Mr. Young, but because this is the rules and blah, blah, blah. So your daughter could be thick as two planks, but because she's got a sister there, she can get to the school. Now you've got potentially someone whose brain is rare, but they can't get in because of the tone of the skin. And this is what we're still feeling. So going back, all that picture, bringing it back to what Stuart, this is why, for me, I'm so glad that Stuart has done what he's done and he's got a result. I'm so glad, I'm so proud of him and the work that he's put in. Two reasons. First, as we know, racism, and two, as a black man in the police force.
Yeah, brilliant.
As a black man in the police force.
For one job as well, I mean, you know, it's one job. That's set the marker. We want the next one, and we want the ones after that. And there is other jobs ongoing as well. It's not just okay. We've got one, and he's gone to prison. We can all say everything's changed because
of course not.
It's going to change my life.
More than me to go down. More people need to.
And that's why
highlight it.
I want the media. I want the media to report on it, to put out there that so-and-so has been sent down or so-and-so has been found guilty and this is a punishment, and keep chipping away, because I deal with one job and another 10 appear. You know, it's like the snake. He cut his head off, another 10 heads appear. Yeah, man. Just got to keep going, keep chipping away at it. And, you know, I always said it won't change overnight.
No. Sorry. So I was want to interject, and it's like great. What there's a couple of points that Lance raised, and I want to really emphasize how much of this is the embryo stage. You know, when people watching this podcast, listening in and seeing studio stuff, what we have to realize, he's the first in the whole country. Yeah,
that's right.
You know what I'm saying? This country, we are not. And Anthony, we love what Stu's doing in the West Midlands, and we thank God it is in the West Midlands. Yeah, but the reality show is there. Yo, London's got more of our people in there.
So
how on earth?
You know what I mean? How many clubs they got in London, bro?
Bro, like London, you should have 4 officers: north, east, south, west.
We spoke about this. We spoke about this.
And you should have a guy in Bristol, in Manchester, up in Leeds. You know what I'm saying?
Scouseville.
You know what I'm saying?
Scouseville, everywhere.
Straight up, we need officers like this around the country. And my shout out to the police forces that are listening in. Yeah, this needs to happen.
Please do something about it. Liverpool police force, do something about it. Now I'm talking to because there's a lot of crimes been going up there, and he gets palmed off, bro. It just gets palmed off.
100%.
Joey Barton's people shooting people with crossbow arrows in head top and all them things. I don't forget them things, bro.
Trust me, I ain't forgot that.
I don't forget them things, fam. You know what I mean?
And these things
and nothing's done about it. And then these same players can racially abuse footballers. And because I was watching QPR versus Man City the other day, and Joey Barton gets sent off. And if you lip read what he was,
don't take a genius.
Don't take a genius, bro. And this is what I'm saying.
You know what? On the back of what you just said, Anthony, as well, I get asked this quite a lot about verbal on the football pitch. And Roger knows, because I've played against Roger back in the day when Roger was a young whippersnapper.
Was he good? Was he good, bro? Was he good? Tell the truth.
It was a pain in the neck, because if you get past him, he'll still chase you back down. That was Roger back in the day. But one of the things that Roger knows that I won't put up with on the football pitch is dissent.
Yeah, 100%.
The minute you allow dissent, you start to lose control of the game very, very quickly. So I've got this thing where I banter with the players, where I'll manage the players, because Stu will tell you this: man management is a skill in itself. When you
believe it.
Worked in various youth clubs where there's a lot of testosterone, and I always used to say to my staff when I was managing staff, you should always spot something brewing before it kicks off.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Right. So if you can get in there before it kicks off, you've done your job.
Yeah, man.
So that's the same thing that I do on a football pitch. So I won't allow anybody to verbally abuse me. 100% not. I will never allow it. I've never been racially abused by any player on a football pitch in all the years I've been reffing. That's just my experience. I don't speak for all other ethnic referees, but that's my experience.
That's good,
because I set my stall out in seconds as soon as I get on a football pitch. And going back to what you said, Anthony, you can lip read what they say on the TV. According to the laws of the game of football, the use of insulting or abusive language, okay, is a red card.
Exactly.
It used to be directed at
the referee,
opponent, or somebody in the crowd. But they revised it to the use of insult or insulting or abusive language or offensive language. And with that law in itself is pointless. It's like going on the motorway where it says you're allowed to drive at 70 miles an hour. Yeah. And you're driving at 150 miles an hour, you get pulled, and they say you're driving at 150 miles an hour, but I'll let you off this time. They're not enforcing the law.
Okay, yeah. I feel you.
All right, the FA saying, bringing out this law to work with at grassroots level, when we see and we hear sometimes when the mics pick it up, they say to the referee.
Because you get the commentator going, if you heard that, we apologise. Up to the other day, I heard it.
Yeah.
But going back to that, lads, can I ask you a question as a referee? Yeah. And as a referee, have you ever been on the pitch as a referee and like a Rogers come up and says, as a black player come up and says, ref, what lads racially abused me? Have you ever had that?
I've never had that as a referee, but what I have had, this was about 2 seasons back, there was a guy come up to me and said, he's just made a homophobic comment towards me.
Okay.
And I said, okay. I said, it's your word against his.
Yes.
So I can't go to him and say,
blah, blah, blah.
I'll give you a red card because you've called him. I have to see and I have to hear. Yeah. But what I did is at halftime, I went to both teams and I said, I've had a complaint that there's a homophobic comment made. If I hear it, I guarantee you I'm going to deal with it and report whoever the perpetrator is to the FA and to the police. And I said that to both teams, and then I heard nothing else about it. So if it was a racial thing, I'd have said exactly the same thing as well.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'd be sending everyone off.
Here's my second question.
Go.
Lance, as a referee, have you ever had a black player come up to you and say that? No. Have you ever had a white player come up to you and say that black geezer has racially abused me?
Never. Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. Because the reason I asked that, because all through we all hear about racial abuse, and I've never come across a referee to say
he's had a complaint from a white footballer to say the black player called him a white this or a white that or a never. And that's and this is what, and I emphasize this all the time because I always say this to people. You see, as black folk, we are always the victims. We retaliate. We respond, but we don't start no racial talk. Black people don't do that.
Anthony, just to hit on this situation, I want to hit onto you, Stu, now. Yeah. Now this is something which, since our conversation, I've spoke to Lance a couple of times after, just really understanding the law, and I went back to my players before we went back after lockdown, and I explained to them, you don't need to take on the responsibility of racism. So we have actually stood up on our 2 feet and not taking no rubbish from anybody. Yeah, not being disrespectful. We come with respect. I had an issue even with referees being disrespectful to ourselves. We hold it in, we lodge the evidence, and we record our games and we put it out there. But still, guys, don't accept any more rubbish now. If somebody abuses you, take it, stock it, document it, and we know what to do. Now, if I faced racial abuse or even homophobic abuse on a football pitch and nobody else or some of my teammates heard it and so on, and Lance didn't hear it, yeah, I'm still within my right, to correct me if I'm wrong, to still say, I'm going to report this, but I'm not going to take it out on the referee for not dealing with it on the pitch. I can still report this to the police because there's evidence of it, but the referee couldn't hear it and whatever. And I want to emphasize this to people because sometimes we put so much pressure on the referee to deal with all the crimes on the pitch, to recognize that, you know what, if there is any sort of racism, anyone listening into this on the pitch, yeah, and you have got evidence and you have got 2-3 people witnessing it, correct me if I'm wrong, I can still lodge a complaint even though Lance, the referee, doesn't hear it.
Yeah, spot on. I don't need to say anything further. You've nailed it. Yeah, it's like any just because it's on a football pitch, it's pretty much irrelevant. It's it could be walking down the street. It's a crime. Whether it's on a football pitch, in a pub, out on the street, in the shopping centre, racially abused, homophobic abuse is aimed at you, and you've got evidence. Yeah. You report it, or I asked you to report it. And I know it's difficult because some people will want to deal with things in their own way. That's naturally what people want to do. Not everyone is going to come running to the police. No. My advice is to report it to the police. That is my advice. But people will always say, you know what, I'll deal with this my own way. I'd never encourage that, but again, that's the reality. That's what happens.
Again, I can just emphasise that, Stu, it's spot on, and that's why I think the media again need to do more when yourself and your colleagues and everybody else is doing their job to let the public know that people are going to jail, because as you know, bro, the black community don't really like to deal with police because we feel that we're not being supported. Let's talk the thing, we've grown up knowing this. It's not just like last week thing. We've always grown up knowing.
Born in it, bro.
Yeah. Police don't do it, More times too, your house gets burgled. The only reason you call police is to get a crime number. You don't really call the police because you think they're going to help the crime. You only call them to get the crime number.
You need to show your insurance out, don't you? Your insurance need a crime number.
But this is the fact, and this is the problem, because the media like it like that. The media want to play it like that. Black people don't like police. I work in care, bro. I used to work for Birmingham City Council. I'll never forget to give you a story. And these 2 police officers came to arrest this young girl. The young girl was having a shower at the time. So I stood in front of her and said, you can't go past. We can arrest you for what do they call it? Obstruction.
Yeah, obstruction, yeah.
I said, mate, you can arrest me for whatever you want. You're not going into the shower to arrest the black girl. You're not doing that. You're 2 male officers. She's a female. Hello? And the reason they said that, they came and they reported me to my manager, blah, blah, blah. The reason why, because they said I had an issue with police. I didn't have no issue with police. I had an issue with the fact that you've sent 2 male officers. And even if you sent females, don't think I would have let you go in because she's in the shower. She can't go anywhere. Let her come out the shower, get herself dressed, then you arrest her, do what you got to do. I'm here, do what you're doing. But I couldn't uphold that because I didn't think it was right. But what they did, they didn't look at the fact of what I was doing, protecting the girl. They just looked at the fact that, black geezer, he doesn't like police, doesn't like this and that. And that's what they did. That's how they built it up.
Yeah, man.
That's exactly what they said. It was my manager. He goes, no, I appreciate what Anthony did and I support him and I'm glad he did it. Otherwise, I probably would have lost my job, bro.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, because in society, we've been growing up, as it says. I know, when you was young, Stu, if you told people, what do you want to be when you leave school? A police officer, your black mates must have looked to him for. Roger's laughing because he knows the truth. He knows. Because
when I joined the police when I was 22, I lost friends.
There you go. See, exactly.
Friends, my phone suddenly stopped beeping. Those certain friends weren't calling me. But at the end of the day, I've got a family. I've got bills. I've got
exactly. So to you, it's just doing a job. It's just a job to you at the end of the day. But to the next man, thinking, nah, it's true. My brother, I grew up with him. Me and him done So why don't you talk to him anymore? Oh, he's turned police. you know what I mean? Police officer.
On the back of
and that's the reality.
On the back of what Roger said, I was on my last game as a level 3 referee. I was 4th official at Stevenage Borough. Long drive down south, all day out on a Saturday, and the manager at the time was a guy called Steve Harris, who went on and managed Leeds United, so on and so forth. And me and him had words right at the start. Before we even kicked off, we had words. I'd never met this guy before. And he said to me aggressively, and you do your job properly today as well. And that was my first introduction to this guy, to which I turned to him and I said, listen, I've never met you before. You've never met me. I said, but I can tell you this. If that's the way you're going to talk to me today, me and you are going to fall out. So I set my stall out with him straight away. And he said, well, you just do your job then. And I said, well, okay, I'll do my job, but you do your job, which is to coach your team. Anyway, the opposition dugout, there was a guy, and I think he was from, he wasn't black, but he was from a country like where his skin was darker.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
White, okay? So anyway, we know what it's like. We're told when we're 4th official, again, if you see something brewing between the two dugouts, get yourself in there, be a presence, calm them down. And there were no issues until towards the end of the game when a penalty was given. And Steve Harris kicked off big time. And he said to the opposition manager, you haven't even got a British passport. To which the guy said to me, did you hear that? And I said, yeah, I've got it. Don't worry. I looked at my watch. We were in stoppage time. Wow. So I thought, there's no point stopping the game with 30 seconds to go on a contentious decision. I'm going to handle this. And I said to the guy, don't worry. This will be reported. Game finished. Said to the referee and to the assistants, and the assessor always comes into the changing rooms. I said, we had an incident. I said, what happened? I said, well, basically, he said to the other guy, you haven't even got a British passport. Next thing I know, the police were in because of the official complaint that was made by their dugout.
Yeah.
I had to leave the changing room and I had to make a statement to the police about what that guy had said to the other guy.
Yeah.
So I made my statement to the police, exactly what I heard, exactly what I observed, and it was left in the hands of the police and the FA, and I never heard anything else about that after that. And now we're going back about nine seasons ago.
Wow.
And I never heard anything else about it. Never got called to court, never got called to give any more evidence. And I think for me, it was probably one of those that was brushed under the carpet and left alone.
Yeah.
And there was a great opportunity to nail that guy who obviously had got a problem with the fact that this guy wasn't British. So that's a dugout. That's a dugout where it's happening. So what's coming from the terraces, and myself, like the rest of you guys, was watching that England game. And as soon as those guys missed the penalties, I thought,
bro, from the first penalty miss, I just knew you should.
Yeah.
Because all I remember, I was sitting at home and I said, you know what? I'd rather as much as, you know, probably when I'm going to say what I'm going to say, the whole country will turn against me. I just want England to lose fairly. Forget penalties. Just lose. Just lose, bro. I didn't want it to go to penalties because I know there's a possibility that there's a black man playing and one of those black geezers, knowing our luck, the black geezer's going to miss.
It's going to miss the penalty.
And we got 3 of them.
Yeah.
We got 3 of them, you know, and it was just, as it says, you know, it wasn't rocket science. You didn't need a degree or a diploma or A-level GCSE to know if any of these black players miss and England lose,
we finished.
It's good night. It is good night, mate.
And on the back of that, with the outcry of the abuse that came after that, what did Twitter do? Twitter put a black female to do the interview.
Yeah.
And she was already versed to say, well, you know, we're dealing with it and blah, blah, blah. So that for me was tokenistic. We've got a whole issue around racism. Let's put a black woman there to show that we take this seriously. And we're still having the same conversation today that we've been having for years about people getting away with murder on social media, especially around racism. So, like I said earlier, just as easy as to get rid of people who don't fit the narrative, why can't they get something within their algorithms? Because the algorithms is what throws up comments because they can't police every comment. These are set up to flash up things that go against their terms and conditions.
Well, you know, when you go
having their terms and conditions to flag up any racist word.
Well, if you go on social media now, I don't know, I'm on social media and I'll be looking at, I don't know, paint or something random on social media. Before you know it, every advertisement that I've got is about paint.
Exactly.
So technology, first and foremost, the technology for me is there. If you post something on Instagram and you attach a song to it, it flags up straight away. This song is copyright. You can't use it. And then it's taken down. It's taken down within seconds. My girlfriend did it the other week. She put something on for over Christmas and it was taken down. So the fact that someone posts a racist word or an offensive word, that should be picked up. The technology's there. That's what we're trying to say to the social media companies now, that you should be able to weed a lot of this stuff out. I'm not all of it, because stuff will get through. You know, they're turning around to me and they're saying the algorithms are there. You know, players can put blocks on, or anyone can put blocks on their accounts to stop certain words, stop certain emojis being sent, but it's still happening. So it's, you know, we're going back and saying, look, these are the examples, these are the cases that I'm having, these are the reports. So it's not working. And then it kind of goes quiet, and you know, it doesn't get resolved, is the point I'm trying to make. And that's the frustrating thing.
You know,
and these companies are just so big now. They're just so big, and they earn so much money. And someone being racially abused, it's just not big enough to them. It doesn't, you know, it's very little to them. It's not important to them. That's the impression that I get, and it's frustrating when I'll have a player come and report something to me, and they're pissed off because they've been racially abused, first and foremost. I'll go away and investigate it. And then another issue is the offender has been identified in Turkey, was my last one. There's nothing in UK law where I can do to investigate that. If it comes back abroad, there's nothing I can do, because you've got the laws in that country. So the problem comes back to the root. How can we stop those players getting that abuse? Is to change the social media platforms, how they operate, how they allow people to openly say things. You know, social media is a great tool, great platform to getting messages across, but it has that minority of individuals who stay in it. And it is the pit of society, because you can get away with saying anything on social media at the minute. Because the consequences and the way the platforms operate is not strong enough. And stopping certain stuff is just not happening.
What I would say though, and I hear what you're saying, But what I've seen so far as well, as you know, and I totally agree with you, and something you mentioned about racism isn't important, because if somebody says something homophobic, within two seconds you're shut down. Also, if you say something about COVID and you have an opinion in there, trust me, you get shut down. So
you're
how come
you get shut down?
So if you talk any COVID talk, I know for a fact, because you know, obviously I do talks and I have to be very careful on social media how I do talks and how I title it. You can't even promote a conversation I had with a doctor the other day because it's about COVID. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, but it's a good conversation, but you can't promote it because Google doesn't allow you. But hold on a second, you can promote other stuff there still. Now homophobia, we've seen people say some stuff like Dave Chappelle and all these guys get shut down and get all the warriors coming, and you know what, they can do what they're gonna do. But the reality show is when you see racism, it's just not the priority. And this is when I see stupid statements which you made earlier about white lives matter and all lives matter, all these stupid statements. This is not what we're saying. We just want, the reality show is, but based upon the facts that are on the table, black lives do not matter in this world right now. You know what I'm saying? As much as, and it's not to say that, you know, we want to dominate. We're not on this conversation to say we want to rule, we want to be abusive to everybody, we want to, it's not about it. We just want to have a fair crack at things and be treated the same. And the simple thing is, and we want to be covered, which we are covered by the law. But I just want to end on a certain point though with your Stu, yeah? You did say to us that you're trying to open up some dialogue with the FA. Now my biggest book is the FA, because I feel like the FA is just chilling and smoking 2 cigars and don't really care about, you know what I mean? They're seeing the whole place melt down when it comes to racism. Seeing the police now, you're not an FA official. You're nothing to do with the FA, but you're 100% a police officer. What has happened with the FA? Are the FA bringing in football rules? Are they backing you totally, or they're just standing there smiling, waving like FIFA?
Stuart, just before you answer that, because it was what I was going to throw in, and it's in line with what Roger is saying. FIFA and UEFA, in my opinion, don't take racism seriously. Okay, so England, you've mentioned Bulgaria and Hungary, where England went and played against them, monkey chants, that kind of stuff. Now, for me, if they're serious about racism, what they say is, right, for the next 10 games, your fans will not enter the ground. 10 games, not one game, but 10 games. Because if they don't get the message when they're banned from being in the stadium for 10 games, they'll never get the message. So over to you, Stuart.
Tough to follow on from that. So what I was going to start with is the FA is difficult for me because they are a national body. So my role, albeit it's gone national in terms of publicity, is West Midlands orientated. So I do a lot of work with the Birmingham FA, and I've got to say the Birmingham FA, the county FA have been brilliant, and COVID slowed it down a little bit in terms of we're going to be going in and having some education inputs with referees, make them aware about certain things. But what the Birmingham FA are now trying to encourage is, if there's an act of discrimination on the pitch and the referee hears it, first and foremost, it's dealt with positively. It goes into the referee's report, and then that comes into me as a within the police to then pick up that report and investigate it with the player who's been victim, and then obviously the offender. In terms of the FA nationally, that's been difficult. I've got to be honest. Talking to the FA, I've had early dialogue with the FA, early conversation, but it's been difficult because they're just at a national level, they're at a government level, and me as a PC, unfortunately, I'm a lot lower down than that, and that's the reality of it with the FA. So my work is all to do with the Birmingham FA, which I've got to say that the Birmingham FA have been really, really good so far.
That's that's excellent to hear, because you know, obviously we work, and I think also on the flip side of things as well, there are black officials out there, and I would say, you know, I suppose they're protected the same way. If they could raise issues to yourself and actually get from players being racially abused, because there's been incidents even in our league. There's in about 4 seasons ago where referee was racially abused, and obviously the team got kicked out. But the thing is, everyone thinks just pretend it's not there, but things need to be followed up properly. And I think sometimes we see the referee's red card and think that's enough, or the referee giving a yellow card, oh, that's enough. No, this is not just a cynical tackle. This is not just a man going through and board. This is a hate crime.
It's not part of football, is it?
No,
it's not part of football.
It's not.
And like the Birmingham FA have said to me, through my various investigations, if I identify someone, say they're at a football ground and they are arrested for, we'll use racism, a racist incident, and they get charged and go to court, and the FA find out through myself that they are a referee or a player or some sort of affiliation to football at grassroots level, they will deal with them on a separate matter as well.
Wow.
And there'll be consequences in terms of their role within the FA or playing at that level,
coaching and stuff like that. So no, that's brilliant, because we've had coaches say things in different rooms that, you know what I mean, youth coaches do being abusive, and I've seen it all there. So 100%. No, I've got to close things off, guys. But on the last note, Anthony, Lance, and Stu, enough love for coming on, because it's been really insightful today. You know what I mean, for myself. But is there any guys points? I know there's going to be. I do want to touch base with you much more often, because we're seeing cases flare up, and we really want to push the fact that, as soon as you get wind, Stu, about, other cities and areas taking on this role, let's get on the case, you know what I mean, and let's support these areas.
Well, just on the back of that, sorry, there has been 12 police forces who have made contact with myself. Some forces have come down to have a look at the work that we've been doing. So cool. I'm hoping going forward they will have, whether it's one officer, I think we all know one officer is not enough. But one officer is always better than no officers.
Yeah. Very true.
And by the work that I'm trying to do, trying to get it out in the media, highlight the good work, getting people sent to prison, getting people on banning orders, keep publicising it. I'm hoping that as a ripple across the country, and other forces then think, you know what, there's benefits here, because it's not just about football. Although my role's in football, it's about someone seeing Romain Sawyers. Someone from the black community has seen Romain Sawyers report something to the police, actually trusted the police, give a statement to the police, seen it through to court, and then the end game, he's seen a positive result at court. So I'm hoping over time people will see that, and then you've got people within different communities who are subject to this, not putting up to it and dealing with it in the correct way. And the correct way to me is reporting it to the police.
Yeah, I just want to say, reiterate what you're saying, Stu. Great, it's what you're doing. Brilliant news that 12 police forces around the country have contacted you. That's a start. But like it says, for me, the biggest thing what needs to know is, for yourselves and all the other police forces, when you do something, let them know, because the black community's biggest problem is the fact, as you've said, we don't trust police. How are we going to trust police? We have to build that trust. So Romain has showed you the start now is for us as the black community, whatever city we come from, not just Birmingham, anywhere, to do the same thing, and put our trust into the police force to carry out. I mean, for me, this is better for me. Stu, I got a name, I got a face, I can put, I'm phoning Stu. I'm phoning my brother Stu. So for me, that's not a problem, because at least I know I have the confidence now. Whereas before, if it wasn't for you, bro, I'd be like, Rog, I can't be bothered, bro. What you're doing is right, what we're saying is the right thing, but bro, until I can see someone put a face to it, and because as we said before, let's be real, 2021, we had the same case with Ian Wright. High profile, racial abuse, went to court, but the judge threw it out. The judge threw it out, didn't even give him nothing, didn't even slap him on the wrist, threw it out. So we clearly see what's popping. So as I said, going back to earlier, enough respect to the two judges who first sent him down, then the other judge who upheld it when they redid it, when he appealed. Enough respect to them.
And another thing as well, it's important, I go to court. So if I've got a trial, I'll go to court. I'm at court. And I'll have a chat with the prosecutor. And if there's an issue around the case, I'll get it sorted in court. I'll say, well, no, that's not quite. I'll get it bottomed out, because I know if it's got to court, there's a very good chance this individual's guilty. And I don't want anything. I don't want no loopholes or no discrepancies where the judge will say, I'm not quite happy with that. I'll get it tightened up at court if needs be. So I'll see it through from start to finish.
Brilliant. Nah,
that's just a pride thing. That's
just facts, bro. And as I said, for me, I can speak for me. I'm glad to hear that. As I said, enough respect for what you did for Remain, and good luck in the future for what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we need justice. We need more justice for all of us, because all of us have suffered from this. Every single one of us on this group suffered from this. So we need justice. We need justice because we know what it's like. It's easy for people out there with a different skin tone. Oh, it's just words. It's just this. It's just. But when you've grown up, 30, like Lance says, I've had to listen to my stories where my people are telling me, my mum, my dad, and all of them telling me, we know the stories, no blacks, no dogs. We know all that. We've been there. We know that. So, as he says, we're in 2022, and we're still
dealing with this rubbish, man.
Dealing with this. And like Roger says, I just want to say this, though. Yeah. Like Roger says, I just want this situation, racial abuse, no matter who, to be as fundamental as homophobic abuse. Because like I said to Roger, if me and Roger go outside tomorrow and start abusing homosexuals, we're in trouble straight in. Yeah. And I want that same level of policing for anybody who racially abuses someone because of the colour of their skin tone, or their ethnicity, or whatever. From their discriminated against, it's supposed to be the same.
Yeah, man.
It's supposed to be, and that's what I'm saying. Because I feel like the LGBT community get preferential treatment over us black people. Facts. I'm just being honest. That's how I see it now.
That's how you feel, man. That's how you feel.
And there's black LGBT people affected. So but I just feel if there's an LGBT crime over there, they will get 25 police. Whereas I've just been racially abused over here. I'm lucky if the police come and deal with my situation.
You just get a number, bro.
I'm lucky if they come out because I've had people. Oh, the other day, things have happened. Police haven't even turned up, bro. They haven't even turned up, bro. You know what I mean? So, as I said, I just want that for me. For me, I believe that's what we need to get to. We need to get to that stage. So, a hate crime is no different to a hate crime of LGBT. Because, as I said, if
it's all equal.
Somebody was LGBT, get to court, he's getting done straight away. As we know, when you look at Buju, all those people who couldn't get into the country because of their thoughts and the lyrics of their records. But it's okay when it's us being abused. Anything can go on. Football matches can still carry on. True. We can have big debates on the pitch. Should we walk off or shouldn't we walk off? We need something done, and these are the things, as I says, for me, great work you're doing, but we just got to make sure that the black community, the communities, especially the black, hears about the arrests and that people are going to jail, because I feel if they hear that, that gives confidence to say, well, they're doing something now, so we're going to be more likely to report the next thing what happens. Whereas if we don't see that, we're just going to say, what's the point? They ain't doing anything anyway, so I ain't doing nothing. I'm not reporting.
I'll deal with it myself.
Yeah, man.
Exactly, and bro. That's what we need.
And then before you know it, you're in trouble and
you're getting banged up.
For the police.
Yeah,
man. Big kudos to you, Stu, for your work. First time I met you, and I just commend you in what you're doing, and you're blazing a trail basically, because it's got to start somewhere, and if it started with you, then you will be the person in future times who'll be pointed at, and they'll say Stuart Ward was the one who was the originator and the one who blazed the trail. And what I'll say to finish off with is I was on a game, a supply league game, and I'd got 2 assistant referees, and one of my assistants was a police officer, and part of his job was he was in the unmarked cars and stuff, but the other part of his job was organised football crime. So he would go into the terraces,
what I do as well,
and he would be like getting, looking around, listening to what's being sung, making notes, all that kind of stuff. So sometimes he'd just turn and record because he's recording live footage, all that kind of stuff. And he said, what we had to do that because we had to break up the organized football crime networks.
Yeah.
And I believe that's something that needs to happen in certain Premier League, Football League grounds, is where police spotters are in the crowds. Not every game because it's manpower and resources, but the ones where there's been complaints about racial abuse, let me just throw into that as well. Sometimes the complaints about abuse come from the supporters who are in and around where the abuse is taking place, and they're also white folk. So it's not like they're turning a blind eye. They actually make complaints to stewards and say, I don't really like what they're singing over there. I don't really like what I'm hearing. So, it's not a black versus white thing, in my opinion.
No, it's not.
So, I just believe, the police, if they know, let's use Chelsea. I'm not saying it's Chelsea, but let's just say Chelsea have a contingent where they know there's issues around racial stuff. They can put a spotter in amongst them, no problem at all.
That's what we would do across the 6 Midland clubs. We'd do that. If there's a problem, we'd go in, and it's what you said earlier. You go in and ultimately you try and nip it in the bud. In effect, you try and get into it early doors and disband it and deal with it. And if there's criminal offences there, they're getting dealt with. They're getting dealt with criminally.
100%.
That's been my stance from the start. If you can identify them, we're going down the criminal justice route, and we'll get them to court if needs be.
No,
and we'll get the courts to issue the sentences.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. No, Lance, I know Auntie's had to pop out still. Yeah, listen, thanks for jumping in, Stu. Nothing but love. I know you're a busy dude, and thanks for his time because this is recorded. This is gonna be pushed out, and we really salute you for the work you do, man. And this is myself and Affinity Extra. This is Roger Moore here. Really humbled by this conversation, and we're gonna be doing more conversations with Stu. If you got any questions, do hit us up. Do check out the West Midlands Police Force and get in contact with PC Stuart Ward, man. Do check out. Sure, if you Google him now, he's famous anyway still. So this is how we do it, man. Listen, guys, thanks again. Take care. Nothing but love.
Thanks for watching this content. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also listen to Affinity Extra 24/7 at affinityextra.com. Don't forget to follow us as well on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter @/Affinity Extra. If you wish to support us, or if you want supporting as an artist, go to our Patreon, which is patreon.com /Affinity Extra, and don't forget to be